Okay, let's get into this deep space mystery. Something has scientists totally stumped and space agencies quiet.
This is a big deal. For only the third time ever, an object from another star is here.
And it's acting weird. Its size, its chemistry, its path, none of it makes sense. And right when we got our best view, the world's space agencies just stopped talking. So the big question is, what do they actually see? Let's unpack this puzzling official silence. Check out this timeline. October 3rd, it zips past Mars. That very afternoon, NASA furloughs its staff.
Yep, 15,000 people sent home. Right as our best eyes in the sky were supposed to be watching.
And look, all these powerful cameras were in the perfect spot, but all we have are fuzzy amateur shots. So why the radio silence? Well, let's follow the clues. The data itself points to some crazy things. For starters, this thing is enormous. It's about 1,000,000 times more massive than Oumuamua was. Then there's its chemistry. It's shedding nickel without iron. That's basically an industrial signature.
And its trajectory? The odds of it lining up this perfectly for planetary flybys are practically zero.
This gets even weirder. Months ago, a remote viewer claimed there was some kind of tech hidden inside it. And here's the real kicker. Scientists traced its path, right back to that famous unexplained wow signal. Right now, though, we can't see a thing. It's totally hidden from view behind the sun. October 29th is the big day. It's called perihelion. That's its closest approach to the sun, the moment of truth. So what happens next will tell us everything. Will it act like a natural comet or something else entirely? We should get our answer in December. That's when it comes back into view and we can check its path. If that path has changed in any way that nature can't explain, well, that changes everything. So what is it? A natural wonder or some kind of cosmic messenger? We find out in December.
Welcome to The Critique. We've got a really interesting transcript today. Multiple chapters focusing on this interstellar object, 3 Atlas.
Yeah, specifically the weirdness around it, the anomalies.
Exactly, and how that lines up, or maybe doesn't line up, with the official silence from NASA, especially during that furlough around the Mars flyby.
Right. Quite the setup.
Okay, so diving in. A big part of this clearly is those 7 statistical impossibilities tied to Atlas, and, well, the lack of answers from the agencies. That's the core mystery.
It absolutely is. That's the hook, the real strength here.
But let's talk about maximizing that punch right away.
Okay. So, the first main point. The profound impact of the 3I Atlas anomaly is, I think, significantly diluted because it's presented alongside a lot of generalized, sort of high-volume space news.
Right, I see that. You mean how it covers Atlas in depth, but then there are these other chapters labeled general space news?
Precisely. That's the weakness. You got this highly technical, potentially, reality-altering data about a possible black swan event, that's Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mixed right in with chapters on the 2025 TF asteroid, the Starship flight analysis, the Tianwen-2 mission, even the Mars life discovery stuff.
Which are all interesting, sure, but
Different scale?
totally different scale. And by packaging them together like that, labeling the second half general space news, you kind of risk downplaying how incredibly significant Atlas might be. It makes it feel like just another news item.
Okay, so it dilutes the main event. What's the fix then? Just cut the other news? Well, you could. You could definitely make the Atlas deep dive a completely standalone piece or series. That would work.
Or,
and I think this is maybe the more compelling option narratively, you keep the other news, but you explicitly frame those chapters as context that distracts from the main event.
so you turn the weakness into a strength. The distraction becomes part of the story.
Exactly. Like, while the world was looking at Starship Flight 11, this was happening with Atlas. It maintains that narrative focus purely on Atlas and its weirdness, like in chapters 1, 3, 5, and 8. It underlines the strangeness of the situation.
I like that. Sort of a narrative judo move, using the noise to highlight the signal.
Yeah. And building on that, instead of just, dropping those 4 other stories entirely, maybe use that space, that word count, to really hammer home the most disturbing alias data points. Some of them feel a bit rushed right now.
Okay, concrete examples. If we do that, what specific 8 last facts need more emphasis? Which one should really hit hard?
Good question. I'd say focus on the stuff that's hardest to explain away. Really double down on the VLT finding. You know, the Very Large Telescope detecting nickel. But without iron?
The industrial signature thing.
Yeah, right. That's only seen, as far as we know, in our own industrial manufacturing. That needs to land with full force.
Okay, nickel without iron. What else?
And the other big one is the origin point calculation. The fact that 3 Atlas appears to have come from within, 9 degrees of the 1977 WOW signal source?
That connection. Yeah, that's chilling.
It is. So focus intensely on those points. Make sure the listener walks away haunted by those facts, not wondering about, the color of some comet. Maximize the core mystery.
Got it. So focus the firepower, make the context serve the main narrative. Okay, that leads nicely into the second point, actually. If Atlas is the story, we need that hook to grab immediately.
Right. The opening needs to hit harder, faster.
As I read it, the argument seems to be that the silence, the official silence, is the real smoking gun here. But it takes a little while to get to that implication.
Yeah, it does. So, the topic sentence here is, the opening should be restructured to immediately lead with the most compelling circumstantial evidence connecting agency silence directly to the flyby event.
Okay, let's break down the current opening. It leads with the astrophotographer Simeon Schmaus, right? Stacking those Perseverance images, finding a faint smudge.
Which is cool. It shows the lack of official pics, but it delays the real bombshell.
The furlough.
The furlough, that's the weakness. You have this incredibly suspicious timing. October 3rd, 2025, Atlas makes its closest Mars approach, the perfect time for high-rise to get amazing shots.
The best camera we have out there for this?
Exactly, and on that exact day, 15,000 NASA employees, 83% of the agency, are sent home on furlough. That's the strongest factual hook you have. It's this direct clash of the political timeline and the astronomical timeline.
And right now it's mentioned, but it comes a bit later, after the smudge description. It feels almost secondary.
It does, in that coincidence, that timing. That should be the absolute foundation of the opening tension. Why make the audience wait for that shoe to drop?
Agreed. So, suggestion for improvement? Flick it?
Flip it completely. Drive the opening with that collision of timelines. Create that tension immediately. Establish the core premise. This wasn't just bad luck. This looks like deliberate non-disclosure. Set that tone instantly. Something was hidden here.
That's a big shift. Can you give a concrete example? Like, how would those first few lines sound?
Sure. Instead of starting with Schmaus, start right with the conflict. Maybe something like October 3rd, 2025. Interstellar object 3I Atlas flies just 29 million kilometers past Mars, prime time for NASA's best cameras. We should have gotten a flood of images. Instead, silence, because on that very day, 83% of NASA, 15,000 civil servants, were suddenly furloughed, leaving a skeleton crew. That coincidence? That's the shocking truth here, not the faint smudge amateurs were later forced to find. See the difference?
Yeah, totally. It immediately frames the entire story around suspicion and potential cover-up, rather than just astronomical observation.
Exactly. And then you can bring in the Schmo's faint smudge story, but frame it as evidence of what the public had to scrape together because the official channels went dark. It reverses the emphasis.
I really like that reversal. It sets the stakes high from sentence 1, establishes that accountability question that runs through the whole piece. Okay, strong opening.
Good.
Now, once we've hooked them with that furlough shocker, the material needs to deliver scientifically. And this is where I think the piece is strong in parts, but maybe wobbles a bit.
Okay.
What I really appreciate is the detail on the actual observations. You know, the polarization metrics, the chemical stuff you mentioned, real science. But then it's mixed with some very speculative content.
Right. That brings us to the third point. The powerful credibility established by citing precise astronomical measurements is undermined by presenting extremely speculative claims, like remote viewing or prophecy, without enough critical distance.
Yeah, that's the tension. The author does a great job laying out verifiable technical details. Like you mentioned, the object showing that weird negative polarization, negative 2.77% at phase angle 7 degrees. Avi Loeb points out that's unprecedented for a comet. Solid stuff.
Very solid. That's the kind of detail that convinces a skeptical reader.
But then, almost in the same breath, we get these other claims. The remote viewing session from August 2025 that supposedly saw a thumb drive-sized device deliberately placed inside the comet.
Or those prophecies circulating online, warning the sky will burn with knowing light?
Exactly. That's the weakness. You have this jarring juxtaposition of hard science and, frankly, non-scientific claims. This big swing in the quality or type of evidence risks losing the sophisticated listener, the one drawn in by the calm scientist approach described elsewhere.
They might start thinking, okay, where is this going? Is this serious analysis, or is it heading into, like, tabloid territory?
Right. So how do you handle that? Do you just cut all the speculative stuff? Some of it is part of the phenomenon surrounding Atlas, isn't it?
You don't necessarily have to cut it all. The suggestion is to maintain that rigorous scientific voice by creating a really clear rhetorical separation. Keep the physics and chemistry anomalies, Loeb's 7 statistical impossibilities, clearly distinct from the claims coming from, less conventional sources.
So signal versus noise again.
Pretty much. Frame the remote viewing, the internet chatter, the prophecies, not as evidence corroborating the science, but as a cultural response, or maybe a symptom of the panic caused by the genuinely weird science and the official silence.
Okay, so you acknowledge it's happening, but you contextualize it differently. Not as proof, but as fallout.
Precisely. So for a concrete example, when you talk about, say, Bertie Jorski's remote viewing results, the thumb drive, the archive, the broadcasting pulses.
Yeah?
Don't present it flatly. Frame it carefully. Maybe say something like, we should note that this highly detailed narrative, while not scientific, was circulating online months before the scientific anomalies became widely undeniable. It shows the kind of speculation that rushed in to fill the void left by institutional silence.
Ah, okay. That anchors it to the silence issue, makes it part of that story. And the prophecies? Same approach?
Same idea. Instead of presenting them as potentially meaningful signals themselves, frame them as the noise that inevitably dominates when official sources refuse to communicate clearly.
You could even point to examples.
Absolutely. Mention the specific trending hashtags like hashtag the Harbinger or hashtag Vatican Files or whatever was actually trending. Use those as examples of the cultural vacuum being filled, the direct result of the lack of trustworthy information. This lets you keep the dramatic elements without sacrificing the scientific credibility that's crucial for this piece.
That makes a lot of sense. It maintains the integrity while still acknowledging the weird circus that can surround these events. Okay, that feels like a really solid path forward.
Good. Yeah, the source material here, the actual atlas data the writer has pulled together, it's fantastic. The goal is just to make sure the presentation really lets that core scientific mystery shine through.
So, recapping the 3 main areas we discussed. First, tightening the focus by either separating out the general space news or, probably better, reframing it explicitly as the distracting noise around the main Atlas event.
Right. Make the distractions part of the story.
Second, completely reworking that opening. Lead immediately with a NASA furlough coinciding with the Mars flyby to establish the stakes and the suspicion from the get-go.
Hit them with the strongest hook first.
And third, maintain that scientific rigor when discussing speculative claims. Clearly separate the hard data from things like remote viewing or prophecy, framing the latter as a cultural response to the genuine anomalies and the information vacuum.
Exactly. Keep the science as the signal, and the rest as the, sometimes fascinating, noise.
Absolutely. The core strength, as you said, is definitely in those technical facts. The mass issues, that weird nickel signature, the anti-sunward tail, the orbital alignments.
Absolutely. By focusing the narrative tightly on those unique, unexplained elements, and really using that official silence as the central conflict, the writer can maximize the intrigue and the really critical questions this whole 3-atlas situation raises.
We definitely encourage the listener to consider these revisions, take another pass at it, and feel free to submit the work back to us for a continued critique.
We'd be happy to look at it again.
Thanks for tuning into The Critique.